Okay, so welcome to podcast number 3 with Hannah Gibson of Blood, Sweat and Tears and the Cervus-UK podcast. I'm joined today by Hannah, who I've just said. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us. I know I only asked you yesterday, and as it has been International Women's Day this week, I thought it was fitting that we had a lady join us, and you are a significant lady. I was just doing some research on you, and I found a nice magazine article where it says Hannah Gibson is easily one of the country's most impressive female shooters. She is a multidiscipline powerhouse who has travelled the globe to fill her trophy cabinet with solo and team trophies in sporting, Olympic skeet and sport trap. Her impressive credentials combined with her passion for introducing new shots is inspiring to the next generation of clay shooters and is something we could all learn from. That's incredible.
I paid him a lot of money to say that.
Well, it's great. You know, first time I met you was last year at Garland's when you were up. What was the event?
It was the British Open Sporting.
Yeah, British Open Sporting. And we were up there trying to get some content. And I met you through Fiocchi because you use Fiocchi as the ammunition. And so we've got a mutual interest there. And I met your father as well. We had a little bit of a chat. And then since then, obviously, I've got to know you a little bit better. But you aren't just a clay shooter. You're a game shooter. You're a deer stalker. You've got Bavarian mountain hounds. We've got loads to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
How did it all start?
So my dad was a competitive clay shooter, and our local ground, Northall, we used to go up there for like members' barbecues. The whole family would go up there. And then Charlotte, whose parents ran Northall, won the Commonwealth Games. My mum's never been involved in shooting. And it was like, oh, this is the first time that I've seen a woman actually shoot and do well at it. So it sparked a bit of an interest, and I kind of kept on at Dad, like, can I have a go? And as kids, we played like loads of sports when I was younger: badminton, cricket, football, horse riding, like you name it, we kind of did it. So after a little bit of time, Dad was like, okay, we'll take you up there. So yeah, haven't really looked back since then.
How old were you then?
I was 12.
So it wasn't with a 12 bore, or was it? Did he throw you in at the deep end?
No. So we started with a 20 bore. Me and my brother. I remember us saving up like our Christmas and birthday money, but both of us are really competitive. So my brother's left-handed, right eye dominant, and shooting just wasn't for him. Bless him. And
but he's great at badminton.
he was a really good swimmer,
right.
And I was not so much. So he stuck to swimming and I stuck to shooting, and have been lucky enough to be involved in it since. But I'd say my competitive nature with it came out again as a family on weekends. We used to go beating, me, my dad, my brother and my granddad.
Yeah.
So it got to the end of the season, Beaters Day. My granddad was stood with me on this drive, and there was this lad.
What neck of the woods is this? Whereabouts in the country?
So this is in the southeast, Sussex. Yeah. My granddad stood next to me, and this lad on the left-hand side was there with his granddad. He was 2 years younger than me and kept cutting me off and taking my birds. And I remember at the end of the drive saying to Grandad, I was like, I'm absolutely fuming. Like, I can't have this happen again. Like, I've got to get better than the boys.
Yeah.
So for me, that's something that's kind of always stuck, and just want to continue with it and keep. Yeah.
So you started at 12 and then you progressed up into the junior rankings, did you? Did you, I know I've just read out that you're multidiscipline, but what did you favour to start with? Where did you what did you do? Skeet or something like that, or?
So I started on sporting, and like I say, I used to play badminton for the county. So on a Saturday morning, Dad and I would quickly pop up to Northall, shoot their 70 bird competition, and then he would take me straight to the leisure centre. I'd have 3 hours of badminton, and then I'd come home. Yeah. So Saturdays were pretty hectic.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I was coming up to my final year of school and Dan at Northall said, why don't you give Olympic skeet a go? And I've dabbled in a little bit of sporting, but I didn't give it my full attention.
Yeah.
And then, decided to give Olympic skeet a go. Been lucky to have travelled the world with that. Competing at European Championships.
But really, I'm going to get told off for this, but do you think shooting in general is a male-dominated sport? How have you found your inclusion within that and getting accepted into that? And I know you said you're competitive, and that's really helped probably because you will muscle your way to the front. But how's that been?
I guess I was really lucky with Northall. We had quite a number of women shoot there. Yeah. So I guess for kind of the first 6 years, really, of my shooting career, I was surrounded by a lot of women, a lot of juniors, colts, and it was very much that club atmosphere. And it was only when you start getting involved in different areas of the sport, that you're almost more aware of it. And I'd say, it's been interesting to see how some people perceive women within the sport, but the majority of the time people are absolutely fine, and like they try so hard to help you out, which sometimes is great, but sometimes you also need a bit of your own space to be able to think and to understand things as well.
Yeah. So now, taking up to now, I know last summer was probably difficult because we came out of lockdown and everything. How do you prepare for these big shoots that you've got come over? Do you have the dates arriving in your calendar and think, right, I'm really going to target that one? I mean, if you've been shooting since you were 12, it must be everything's from memory and you know what you're doing. But do you have to practice a lot, or how are you?
I'm quite lucky. I don't feel like I need to practice a massive amount. Yeah. I'd rather practice something that is giving me problems or kind of identifying what needs work on, rather than just practicing for the sake of it.
A difficult bird.
Yeah, definitely.
What would be a difficult bird?
It depends really. For me, it's stuff like teal targets.
Yeah.
And it goes in kind of fits and starts with what might be a problem 1 month. And sometimes it's in your head that you might have had a bad competition, and a target that wouldn't usually cause you issues or concerns from that competition sometimes creeps in and kind of gives you a little bit of negativity towards it. And I'd say it's probably only in the last couple of years that I've really noticed how important the mental aspect is of it, and working on that. And lockdown's been great that in a way, that it gives you, or it's given me, the chance to take a step back and kind of assess the bigger picture, rather than almost just going with the flow, like one shoot to the next sort of thing. So it has been good in some ways.
If you reflected back, what would be one of your favourite places that you've shot? I mean, you've travelled a bit, haven't you? So have you got a place that you think, oh, that was the most, not necessarily because you shot the best, but it was just a nice ground, nice layout, nice atmosphere, or what? Have you got a favourite?
So I'd say for me, Slovenia.
Really?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. The range there. And as well, it was the first competition like internationally I'd done. The weather was great.
I sell chamois in Slovenia, but I've never been.
Really?
I've got an old friend there I've worked with for years, Joseph, and all I get is stunning pictures of sort of August, September, October when they're shooting the chamois, and I've sent clients out there regularly, and it's really on my to-do list. It's meant to be the most stunning country, so I can, it's down sort of like on the edge of the Med, isn't it? You know what I mean? Round from Italy, and I could relate to that. Not from a clay shooting perspective, but from a shooting perspective. So Slovenia, and what about the UK?
Gosh, there's a lot of good grounds within the UK. We're lucky within the south. You've got like EJ Churchill's.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's quite a few about. But I love shooting abroad. There's just such a different atmosphere when you go away, and everybody just feels more relaxed. There's kind of you've got that village and that atmosphere that everybody's happy to chat. All the nations come together. So there's just a real buzz about competing abroad.
And what I'm sure everybody, what kit do you use? Have you got? I presume you're sponsored. I know you use Fiocchi cartridges. I said that before. We both use Fiocchi, so there's a bit of a link there between us. But what gun do you use?
So I've used a Krieghoff for the last, or must be coming up 7 years, and then the Krieghoff Parkour, which I absolutely love. And then I use, Fiocchi F Black shells. But for me, it's always been important to have a good relationship with my sponsors. And I've been with these guys since I moved back to shooting sporting. And both of them are absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. So that's covered you on your clays. You said you did some game shooting in the early days with dad, granddad, Beaters days and everything.
Yeah.
Has that ran parallel, or did you have you carried on doing that? Tell us a bit about how you got into game shooting and that, and how you ended up living with a gamekeeper.
For my sins. So like I say, weekends, Saturdays were spent beating kind of around early teens, and then obviously schoolwork came in, competing. So that side of things took a bit of a backseat. And it probably wasn't until maybe 6-7 years ago that the game shooting aspect of my life almost picked up drastically when I met Alex. Was invited to a Beaters Day here. And
shot everything that came over you.
Embarrassed a few people. So,
meet the girlfriend she's never shot before. Tum 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 tum.
That's it. So
and do you get to go pigeon shooting? Do you do any of the different types of bird shooting?
So when Alex and I first got together, I was promised on the second date he would take me pigeon shooting. So I think we've been pigeon shooting once, and it was actually Andy Crow that had sorted me out my first day on the pigeon.
Fantastic.
Otherwise I don't shoot a massive amount of other game. I really enjoy being within the field, not necessarily shooting myself. I'm really happy. Alex is a fantastic game shot, although don't tell him I said that, otherwise he's not fitting through the door. And I love just standing on peg, watching him, and just being part of the day. There's so much going on, and you meet so many different characters.
You do. I totally agree with you there. I love a shoot day, whether I'm out on a little shoot that I'm a syndicate member in, or it's our little family shoot, which is mainly duck ponds and stuff like that. And did have in the old days guests and people coming along, you know what I mean? And that friendly banter and common enjoyment of being out, and doesn't. Certainly the people I'm with, it's nothing about the bag, it's about how the day goes, or the bird that you should have hit and you missed, you know what I mean? And the dogs and the working of the dogs, and I love everything like that. So I can really I can understand how you feel. You said earlier on you've been pigeon shooting with Andy Crow. Did you actually beat him?
No, no. I'll give him that.
I was on a Beretta day with him last year, and God, he was shooting some birds, clays. And I thought, flipping it, he was shooting some tall birds. He knew where to shoot. So, hat off, Andy. I respect you for that. But yeah, so that's your game shooting, and you then got into deer stalking. I've seen you've done quite a bit with that. You've got Bavarian mountain hounds, the same as we have.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got into your deer stalking.
So for me, shotguns are second nature. Like we've said, I picked it up when I was 12, but rifles I hadn't touched. And I will openly admit now, I still don't feel kind of as
at one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it was only because, again, with Alex, that he was coming home, the kitchen was being taken over by deer carcasses.
Good lad.
Yeah, filling up the freezer. And I was like, actually, I think I'd like to get involved in this aspect of it. And even just sat up a high seat, just kind of watching the world go by, the different wildlife.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just happy, even just doing that. And I've had some incredible trips, not a huge amount, but enjoyed, like we've been up to Scotland a couple of times. And yeah, it's just a really nice thing to get involved in. And obviously with my job, it's such a massive part.
What do you do for a job, Hannah? You said knowing, actually.
Yeah. So
you're all shooting, you are, aren't you, really? That's what it is. That's what I was keen to do a podcast with you. So go on, tell us about what you do.
So I work for Spartan Precision Equipment, which I sort of fell into a couple of years back. And yeah, haven't looked back since. And it's been incredible to see the company grow in the way that it has. So, yeah, I'm very lucky and fortunate to have had some hunting experiences through that. But even, again, the people that you meet, it's not just within the UK, but it's globally.
Yeah. What do you do for Spartan?
So I am their general manager.
Right, yeah.
And I look after their sales as well.
So you do a lot there, actually.
Yeah, a fair amount.
Yeah. And I'm not being super nosy, but how's Spartan fared through the the pandemic? Has that been tough for you as well?
For us, I'm really grateful that we've had an incredible year.
Really? Well, that's great news.
Yeah. Our European distribution network, we've worked quite hard over the last sort of 18 months. So that's been quite strong. But the growth within the US the last year has just been ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just another world out there.
Did you target that with your marketing, or was it they've picked up on it and other people have spoken about it, or has it been a combination? How's the wind got into your sales in the States? I mean, the States is the marketplace everybody wants to crack if you're European, isn't it? Because you get the numbers, don't you? Which is always helpful, And if one person starts singing about it, and the Yanks love the long distance shooting, which the javelin is awesome for, isn't it? You know what I mean? Real stable base. How do you think? Has it exploded like that?
Mr.
Pen down, Dan.
Mr. G has done an incredible job in the network that he's created out there. We've got some amazing friends in terms of people like Joseph von Benedict, Craig Boddington, Ian Harrison from Recall magazine, the guys at Rockslide. There's just a huge number of people who have been so supportive and have really embraced the product, because it's completely different to anything else on the market, that it's magnetically attached and lightweight. So people have really embraced it over there, and they don't seem as worried about change.
Considering Harris bipod was the American product, wasn't it? That, you know, I think when I was stalking in the late 80s, early 90s, they started coming in then, and everybody had to fit the little nib to it and all that, you know, all the springs and everything on it. And so it's great to see that a British company's doing so well out there, when really that's where they came from, I suppose, isn't it? You know, but,
definitely.
Brilliant. No, that's really good to hear. And have you got any new products, any exciting news you can tell us about?
Yeah, so we have our new tripod launching. Hopefully it will be next week. So
this is going to sound like we organised this to do that.
Yeah, that's it.
Should be a banner flash up now.
Yeah. And the new Spartan Sucker launched yesterday. So there's been quite a few new products launched this year, but we're a company that we listen to what people have to say rather than think we know best, and modify those products for the customer needs. So for us, the tripod was kind of the natural progression to change. People wanted something that they could glass with.
Yeah.
And out in the States, that's kind of 90% of the time what they're doing. So.
700-yard shot on a prong or on something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
No. I told a story in the last podcast about Craig Boddington, who you said use them, and I said still to this day I think he was one of the best shots has ever stalked with me, and just literally picked the gun up and went bang, you know what I mean, and just knew exactly what to do. But again, I think that's the same with back to your clay shooting or anything. It's all practice makes perfect, doesn't it? So I think that all these people that do the long range shooting, they do practice, and that product's great for, you know, I've got a Javelin bipod, and whenever I'm zeroing, it's really useful to we've got various ranges on different estates, and I'm not going to name the estate, but on the one, the table's kind of dropped a bit, so it's not quite flat, but we only use it for 100-yard zero, but you can just adjust it and get yourself level with the table. But no, great product. So you work for Javelin, you've been there a few years. Didn't I see? Well, I didn't see, actually. You made a film last year with them. That's when you went to Scotland, perhaps, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So we took Bridget, who is First Light's marketing manager, up to the Scottish Highlands. And one thing that's really interesting in my job is the fact that we're dealing with customers globally and looking at the different hunting cultures. So to take Bridget up into the Highlands was great for her to see how things worked. And she actually shot a hind and a calf, but it was quite interesting. It was a shame that we didn't get to film her shots. But obviously they used the tag system out in the US. Yeah. And she shot the hind, and the ghillie was like, right, come on, like, shoot the hind. And she's panicking that the shot had gone wrong because she wasn't used to being able to shoot two animals. So, yeah, it was an incredible week up there.
I totally agree with you there. I've, in the past, I regularly have American clients come over, but I can remember probably 10 or 15 years ago having an American guy who came over from Muntjac, but we got him his book in the first outing. So I said, well, look, you know, you paid for the outing. Well, I'm maybe going to think about shooting another. I said, well, let's just go and whack some fallow. I've got loads of fallow to shoot.
Yeah.
And like he whacked 2 in the morning and he's like, have I tagged out? I said, no, you haven't tagged out. We don't do tags here. We've got a call to do and we've got to just keep shooting them. He said, I can't believe it. And then he was also not used to the fact that we had so many different species of deer. So on the one estate, 3 species, fallow, roe and mudjack. Well, he just wasn't used to that. He was just used to whitetails, you know what I mean? Or muleys if he was going to go somewhere else. But yeah, it's considering it's such a big country and they've got a huge deer population. I don't think many people have got the density that we've got for deer. And I think that's a big surprise to a lot of people, but in particular when you've had a tag system, the Americans agree with that. But was the weather nice in Scotland or was it cruel?
We were so lucky. We didn't have any rain and the sun was out. Yeah, we were so lucky up there, which kind of helped. What
time were you there? End of November?
It was beginning of November, I think.
Yeah. So I was up there mid-October. I think it was last week of the Stags. We went up, made a really nice film, but we had some bad weather.
It can be so cold up there.
It's a real tester for kit. And I think Scotland, no matter what you're doing up there, if you're out on walked up grouse, what we love doing, goose shooting, it never disappoints. It's so beautiful up there, isn't it? You know what I mean? The landscape and just the sheer wildness. So I love it. And I think we've got 2 trips booked, I think, this year to Scotland, all being well. That everything goes to plan and we're hopefully back to normal. And Boris's road map actually works.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But you can see why it's almost like the pilgrimage of hunting for people to go up there if people haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
I
sell sport up there, and the French in particular have a real love affair with, they won't look at England, they'll drive straight through it, straight to Scotland. Écossais, they have a real love of it, and constantly get inquiries from France through one of our agencies for sport up there. And this year, it's not good for me, but it's a reflection of us all coming out of the lockdown. Is everything's booked, everybody's booking, everybody's got booking confidence. I have to be careful how I say that. I've looked for sport and expected to get it, and it's already got a name on it, which is good. And I was speaking to a goose guide up there, and he's fully booked till Christmas. You know what I mean? Which is all good, but everything's very tentative. So we can only hope.
I think because people haven't been able to get out like we like it here at home, that you had such a small part of the season actually go ahead, and you feel so sorry for the gamekeepers and the estates that have put in that hard work during the summer, getting everything ready, to only be able to shoot a handful of days, or for some shoots not at all. And I think it's great that people are actually booking up for next year or for this season coming, that they want to get it in the diaries and kind of just support the industry, really.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see ourselves coming out of this into the spring, and people being so positive about it. Those dark days in December when everything was being cancelled, and we had 3 days shooting booked, 2 in December and 1 in January. And we rely on those for content on Dan's side of the business, and it was really difficult. And the shoots that we spoke to, they were like really struggling with it, and I mean, you'll know from the estate Alex managed how many birds were left at the end of the season. It's been we've been out doing our deer cull and getting around pheasants in February and March, or it's just like them going to roost in October, there's so many birds about still, and it really, if you're trying to sneak around the woodlands quietly and not disturb things, and there's 3 cockbirds running off into some cover just as you're stalking into a group of fallow, it's been it's been unique, because normally at the end of the season there's just a small stock left, isn't there? You know what I mean? But over 50% of the birds left, at least, with them not having the heart of the season like December. Being able to shoot this year has been a real challenge. But I just hope that you're gonna, everybody continues with what they're doing and commits to the shooting, and we rise out of this and put it behind us, and we can get on with our lives. And it's been difficult for every business, and that's why it's really good to hear the business you're working for is, managed really well. It's been difficult for some, hasn't it?
Definitely. And we're, like I say, we're incredibly lucky and grateful that things are good for us.
So to go back onto the deer stalking side, I've got a Bavarian pup called Lola. I'm surprised she hasn't come and joined us yet, but and you've got a Bavarian, 2 Bavarians. What dogs have you got?
So I've just got a Bavarian called Fern, bless her.
And how old's Fern?
She is 3 this year. The world's neediest dog, frankly. They're
incredible characters, aren't they? I don't think anything prepares you for a Bavarian mountain hound. One of the lads who I know has just bought a pup, and he sent me a message going, "What should I expect?" And I said, if you've only had labs and spaniels like myself up until that point, and I've had labs that I've trained as deer dogs, forget about it. They're the most wonderful dog, but they are needy.
So needy.
So bloody needy. Needy and naughty. And, it's like with a lab, you just expect it to sort of like do as it's told and everything. But Lola and my previous dog, Basha, I lost last year, are just such characters. Lola's different characters to Basha. I mean, she's only like 10, 11 months old. And I've just started taking her into the woods. I say on live deer, but real live scent. All she's done is scent shoe training, which she's excelled at. But I've got to now get her onto scent that is confused by other scent, if you know what I mean. So it's so next week I'm away for 3-4 days down in Hampshire, so I'm taking her with me. That's going to be her first proper working trip. She's been doing the odd days, so see how she goes.
It's amazing how bred into it is. I know with Fern, she's not done a huge amount. Initially, Alex bought her, and he was doing a lot of stalking. But now that's kind of scaled back a little bit, and she just doesn't forget it at all.
No. They've got so much instinct, haven't they? That's the thing. And it's like when I wondered how I was going to, wed Lola, because my first dog, Basha, when I got her, she was 9 months old because I imported her from Poland. So she went to her friends, and a Dutch guy trained her, and then we got her at 9 months. I imported her and her sister, and my mate had a sister. And she was already good to go, if you know what I mean. Basha was. She just needed experience and a bit of control. But Lola, so I had to do her from day dot, and we put all the skins in with her and the occasional leg and all that, and then just did some literal, I just put some blood out in the garden really when she was probably only 2-3 months old. And I was talking to Deck Marlowe from UK DTR, and he says, forget about the blood. He says, just use hoof scent, get yourself some fallow legs and just do that. And I did, and that's all I've done. And I've not used blood in any of my tracking since, although she's done a couple of muntjac now that we've shot, and they've only ran 30-40 yards, but we've took her back an hour later. And of course there's blood and scent and everything. And I think it just made it easier for her, to be honest. I mean, she was like nearly pulled me over on the line trying to get to it, which was brilliant. And yes, I think for me, I've had 12 months without a dog, and I was stupid and never had a contingency plan for when Basher went, and it ended up being UK DTR, the tracking lads, for 12 months, and now I've got the pup, and I really missed that time when I didn't have my dog with me. Felt quite vulnerable actually when I got clients out. I got the lads that helped me have dogs, so it wasn't so bad as that. But yeah, so I'm really pleased to have a dog back in the back of the truck. So
they're a very rewarding breed as well. As much as they are needy, they do just want to please.
Yeah. And what's Alex got? Has he got any spaniels or labs for his job or?
Yeah, so we've got a mixture. We've got a few spaniels and labs. Just kind of keep the beaten team varied, really.
Yeah, it's weird because we've got two Bavarians. We've got one that we never train, which is kind of the wife's dog, which is a pup from Basher, then the new pup. And it's probably the first time since I was a kid I've not had a spaniel or a lab in the house. You know what I mean? We kind of... but my eldest son now left home. He's got a spaniel pup that he's training that's coming on really well. So we've got one within the system, so to speak. But it's we're never normally less than 3 dogs, and we're down to 2. And I certainly am interested in getting a lab. I haven't told the wife yet. Got to get it past the long-haired general. But I would. I think next year I'll definitely have another lab pup. I think it just makes what you do, doesn't it?
Definitely. And like you say, whether you're out kind of stalking or even in the field game shooting, it's nice to have them with you, even if they just pick a couple of birds. It's nice to see them work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming out of lockdown. We're back on the playgrounds at the end of the month. We're in March. If you're historically watching this podcast, this is mid-March. What have you got lined up then? What are you looking forward to? Are you got yourself booked in on the first day for a session, have you?
So funny enough, I actually had a conversation with my dad yesterday. He was like, I'm over this. Like, are you taking the 29th off? So we're going to go out on the 29th. I think we've got the 31st booked in shooting. So, yeah, just kind of making the most of being able to be back at the ranges, really. There's a few major competitions that hopefully will go ahead.
Yeah.
But there's kind of still this like uncertainty on what's going to happen in the next sort of 6-8 weeks. So, it's a bit weird not quite knowing whether to prepare kind of all guns blazing, so to speak, or not really.
Is there any international stuff that you would be interested in doing later on in the year, or are you going to leave it this year, do you think? Or
so there's a few competitions that are showing that they're going ahead. Again, I'm kind of being a little bit relaxed about booking anything. Just organisation.
Yeah.
So don't have to unorganise it.
We're all desperate to get out and go back to some form of normality. Like, hopefully the game fair said it's going ahead. I think that's what we've all missed, isn't it? That getting out and having a social, whether it's on the playgrounds, game fairs, or not even to do with shooting, just seeing your friends and having
definitely
ending up doing things like this. I mean, God, I must have half a dozen Zoom calls a week with friends and family and business, and it's just
you just want to meet people in the flesh, don't you, rather than you're like, oh God, another Zoom call this week sort of thing.
You do. I was stalking this week and I met the farmer, and normally it's just an hands up as he goes past in the tractor on the gate. Well, it's like an hour's chat about anything,
You're like, it's a real life human.
I'm not going to name him, but it's always a moan normally. No. But I think that's what we're all missing. So what have you, I asked Dom, who I previously did a podcast with. And what have you done? What's been your guilty pleasure over it? Have you got into something, learned to do something different? What have you done outside of what you would do shooting wise? Is there anything? I did see on your social media you've been giving it the old back in the gym, haven't you?
Yeah, so set up in the garage, just some kind of little bit of weight training and cardio, but mine and Alex's
squatting 400 kilos.
Yeah, not quite.
Or Alex.
Yeah. Like 1 minute you're hip and cool, and the next minute, like, you're into gardening and worrying how your kind of shrubs are getting on.
Don't knock it. We've had the go ahead on our allotment for tomorrow. It's like big day out.
Yeah, and it's just
behind the spade.
It was like last weekend. We were like, usually we'd spend a Sunday at the playgrounds or kind of doing something like that. Instead, we spent it at the garden centre. Like,
it's an age thing, darling. That's what it is.
Not even 30 yet.
Yeah, I don't think I was gardening at 30. But as I've got older, I really have enjoyed. I think it's about 8 or 9 years ago I got a greenhouse, and that's when my life changed.
Yeah.
Instead of buying the plants, I grew things from seed, and just to be down in the greenhouse for a couple of hours, spring and early summer and stuff like that. And I think we're more aware now than perhaps when I was younger of where our food comes from. And it's nice to grow your own food, isn't it? And
yeah,
so it's so easy to as well. You know what I mean?
And I guess we're lucky as well, aren't we, being shooters, that we're one step closer as well with the meat aspect.
Yeah.
That we know where that comes from. So growing your own veg, etc.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been taking any clients out, and I just haven't been comfortable with it. I said this before. But we have been plodding away at the cull as best we can. And I had a client who's supposed to become a friend already, James, out of London, who contacted me probably 2 years ago, and he wasn't interested in deer stalking. He was into cooking. And him and his dad used to cook all these nights, and he wanted to shoot something and then be able to skin it all off in his flat in London and then prepare it himself. So he came out and shot a roe deer and did all the prep on it. And we've kept in touch, and he's stalked regularly with us. Anyway, same with you. We all in touch over messages and such like that. And he said, whenever I can go out, I'm happy to come and we can stalk at a distance. I said, well, look, I'm going to be down south next week. If you want an afternoon out, let's go for it. So we did. And it was, I'd got a few muntjac to shoot on this one piece of ground. And we went out for a stalk, and we saw so many deer, but weren't successful for one reason or another. It was really quite windy, so the deer were a bit spooked. And we went out really early in the afternoon. We went out about 2:30, 3:15, and it wasn't dark till 6:30. And we must have had the safety off at least 3 or 4 times, and it just didn't quite happen. Or I called a buck and he started coming, then wandered away. And anyway, finally, last light, this buck crossed the ride. Dad, I'm just doing I'm just on the, you shouldn't, no problem. Thanks, Dad. A live podcast and my dad interrupts. It shouldn't even be in here. Anyway, he must need an essential wee or something. Anyway, last light, came down out of some thick, across the ride, up on the sticks, straight onto it. Did a great job. And so I didn't think we were going to have anything, and we ended up with a carcass, and he was chuffed to bits because, again, he wanted some meat. And then within 24 hours, he'd sent me pictures of he'd skinned it all off, prepped it all, jointed it all. He'd probably got a recipe for every different joint, and I love those kind of people, Definitely. And we're definitely eating more venison than we've ever eaten before because the prices being so rubbish. I've got 3 strapping sons who all like the protein. And as I keep telling everybody, I've got into doing this dehydrating of the fillets. like every week I'm making it now, but it just goes. I make it, and it's the most beautiful way. So yeah, I think growing our own vegetables and eating meat that we've culled ourselves and we know where it's from, and now changing to copper ammunition.
Yeah.
I'm not eating anything myself now that's been shot with lead. It's the future, I think.
I think so.
It's just pity we can't get more people to realise how good it is and get a better return on our venison sales.
We quite often, we don't ever buy any beef mince. We invested in a proper butcher's mincer. And probably for the last, I would say, minimum of 3, if not 4 years, like that's all that's been in our freezer. And the amount of friends we've had over that you either do lasagna, spaghetti bolognese, chili, they wouldn't know the difference. And it's only afterwards you say, it's not beef, it's actually venison.
I know I'll keep bouncing this pen about. I'm going to get a red card off my son again. I agree with you totally. And Tom, my eldest son, who loves his food prep as well, he has all the shoulders of anything we have spare. And he's bought a mincer and a vac packer. And we get the mince back then, and like you say, if you're putting it into anything that you're going to put some herbs through or some spice through, or you can't tell at all. You know what I mean? And you don't also get that great big smear of fat on the top of it like you do when you're cooking cheap beef mince and stuff like that. But long may it continue, but long or quickly may it be recognised how lucky we are to have such quality meat in our country, and people buy it a bit more. But it's just there seems to always be this problem between what the person that harvests it gets paid and the price that it ends up being in the supermarket. It never seems to be any to come down and be cheaper than lamb, say, or anything like that. And you think, well, actually, I'm going to give venison a go because it's the cheapest meat in the in the fridge. And
it's only through people like us. We've got friends that might not have tried it before. Like, here, have a few bags of mince.
Yeah,
give it a go. See what you think.
Give it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it'll all change. Well, Anna, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know where 45, 50 minutes has gone. It just whizzes by. I will say to you now, once we get back to normal, let's stalk together. It'd be great to do that, and bring some Spartan toys with you, and we can have a play with them. I'd love to. I'm always looking to do reviews on stuff, so that would be brilliant. I hope that you have a good clay pigeon season. I'll be keeping my eye out on you, and making sure you're using Fiocchi cartridges. Fiocchi cartridges. Oh, I'm so biased. And send my best to your better half and your dad. We've got a great guy. I met him in the summer. And have a great weekend, whatever you're doing. And let's stay in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you, Owen.
And I really appreciate you being our number 3 podcast, our only lady so far. And once we get, I don't know, a few dozen under it, let's have another one next autumn and see what you've been up to and how you've got on with your season.
Yeah, no, definitely. That sounds great.
Take care. Thank you ever so much. See you, Hannah. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.